anytime BMW launches a new M model, especially an M3 and M4, enthusiasts are going to talk about it. But with the previous generation F-Series cars, people were complaining that they didn't feel as natural and driver-focused as some previous generations of the M3. Now for 2021, there is a new M3 and M4. We've got the two-door M4 model here, and I think you can probably already tell what the next controversy is. That grille. Let's go in depth with the 2021 BMW M4 and see if that grille is the only talking point or if there's more than meets the eye with this new sports coupe. So let's start off with an exterior walk around of the M4, and you know exactly where I have to start. This enormous kidney grille. This was such a huge controversy when they first released this on the 4 Series. I still don't like it on the 4 Series. It's just not aggressive enough to suit that big snout, but the M4 just looks so much more aggressive that I'm actually kind of digging this in person. I wouldn't buy it because of the grille, but it wouldn't keep me away from buying it. And I will note that everything all the way from the top all the way down to the bottom is functional cooling. All of this works to cool that big twin turbo inline 6 under the hood. Now we do have this awesome big power bulge hood. I really like these sort of faux scoops here, and I love this color, this Portimao blue. It really hides the grille a little bit. BMW offers some amazing colors on this M4 and on the M3 as well. You've got Isle of Man green, you've got Sao Paulo yellow, which is like a neon highlighter yellow, but I think this blue is a really nice way to go. We've got some optional carbon fiber here on the snout, and if you come around to the side, we have these optional staggered wheels, 19 in the front, 20s in the back. Love the way these look. These kind of look like the competition wheels from the outgoing M4. Behind it, you see we have gold brake calipers. That's because we have an optional $8,000 brake package. Gets you 6 pistons up here in the front. Only floating calipers in the back though. That's kind of a disappointment, but it's a rear-wheel drive car. We've got carbon fiber here on the mirror caps. We've also got our carbon fiber roof that is standard on M3s and M4s. You can get a sunroof, but that kind of defeats the purpose of the weight reduction here. Now we also have this carbon fiber lip spoiler that looks really nice. I'm sure there's going to be more aggressive versions of the M4 as time goes on with bigger wheels. And we've got the sport exhaust here with the adjustable valves. I love the way this exhaust looks. These are real tips right out to the top, and there are 4 of them, and they sound fantastic on this car. All right, so I'm starting the interior a little bit differently than I usually do because I gotta talk to you about these M carbon bucket seats. They are going to be a major choice here on the M4. They're $3,800 and they work really well to hug you in. They have very aggressive bolsters that are adjustable here on the sides, but I'm not a huge fan of how bolstered it is down here. It's a little bit uncomfortable. You've got this big, I don't know what else to call it, bulge with this piece of carbon fiber right here, and I think it kind of hurts your male bulge area, if you know what I'm saying. Like, it's a little bit weird, especially because we have the manual transmission, so I'm doing a lot of moving on the pedals. So I'm not a huge fan of these seats. If I was going to be daily driving this car, I would definitely opt for the base seats, which you can get heating and ventilation on. These are just heated, but they are really cool as race seats. You see they have the M4 logo that lights up. They have holes in here. These save about 20 pounds over the regular seats. They're still very adjustable, but if you love this crazy color with the blue and the yellow, you can get those on the regular seats, and BMW has some crazy options as well. You can get these seats in white, you can get an orange that's kind of like a brown. I love that color, and if none of those options work, you can do it individual style, and you can get these in red or any other crazy color you want. So now that we're situated in these crazy M carbon bucket seats, let's take a look at the rest of the interior, where I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it's very similar to what you're going to get on a regular 4 Series. Of course, we have this much chunkier steering wheel with the M stitching. I think that's really cool. Now, if you get the carbon fiber pack, which is what we have, that's why we have all this carbon fiber trim, and you do get the M4 competition, which is automatic, you're going to get really big, nice paddle shifters. I've been complaining about BMW's paddle shifters on the M cars being a little bit too small. They've rectified it, but only if you go for this carbon fiber pack, which I think is like $700 extra, which is not that bad. So we have our digital display here. Now, I haven't loved these on BMWs lately because they're not nearly as configured configurable or as beautiful looking as Audis or Mercedes, but I think on an M car like this, which is driver focused, it really works. You've got your tachometer there on the right. You can see if I rev it up, you have your tachometer right there. It'll even tell you what gear you're in, which is really cool, and it doesn't matter whether you have your clutch in or not, which is really cool. I like that. You can cycle through different information here. You just can't have like a big full color map or anything crazy, but you can have your PSI, some driving information, horsepower, torque, and stuff like that. And there is an M mode button down here where you can switch this so you can have a more driver focused display. So now you can see if I rev it up again, you've got these two tachometers that look really cool. Your gear position and speed are right there in the middle, and it kind of gets rid of all of the other information that you would have there. So I do like this display here on an M car. Now you can go to the setup control, so I'm going to show you that. So if you push setup down here on all of this, this is all of the driving stuff that you can change on this car. There is so much adjustability here. You can have your engine and efficient, sport, sport plus, your gear shift assistant, that's the auto rev matching. We'll see that out on the road. You can turn that on or off. Your chassis, that's your adaptive M suspension, comfort, sport, sport plus, steering, comfort or sport, you have your M Servotronic steering. The brakes, you actually have adjustable brake pedal feel from comfort and sport. I kind of feel like they feel the same. And then you've got your M traction control. So if you turn off the traction control, you can activate this. It's very cool. Basically, you have settings all the way from 1 to 10 here. It allows you to get a little bit more slip angle out of it, which is pretty cool. And we do have some M specific functions here. If we come here to car and you come to the M menu, that's the M drift analyzer. This will give you a score out of 5 based on how good your drifts are due. I'm not going to show you that in this video because unfortunately we don't have access to a track. So that's what's specific to the M model here. Other than that, pretty typical 4 Series cabin. I love that you have the 8 programmable buttons here that you can program with, so I can pull up my M menu really quick, or I can set it to radio stations. I've got heated seats here on these buckets. We still have some safety features as well. We've got this carbon fiber door where you can get a wireless charger in here. The cup holders are a bit small, but you do get extra ones here on the door. We've got our iDrive controller, which is great, or you can touch the screen as well. We've got nice center console storage here as well. We don't have a sunroof, but you can get one because we have the carbon fiber roof. I think this interior is really clean, really uncluttered, and I think it works really well in the new M4. So getting into the back seat, usually the worst part of any time I review a 2-door car, but not so in the M4. You just pull this strap and the seat's gonna electrically slide forward, making it really easy. You don't have to hold a button or anything. That's a really great innovation that wasn't on the last M4. And hopping back here, we've got about 34.7 inches of legroom. Now you get about an inch less of legroom in the M4 versus the 4-door M3, and you get about 2 inches less of headroom. So I'm about 5'9" on a good day, and my head is just about to hit the ceiling, but I think in terms of back seat space, this is about as good as you're gonna get from a 2-door car. I have plenty of elbow room. I have 2 USB-C chargers. I have my own air vents and climate controls back here. The only thing I'm missing back here is a cup holder. Wrapping up with the practical stuff, the trunk on a 2-door coupe might not be your biggest concern, but the M4 is actually quite big back here. We've got 12 cubic feet of storage, which is only 1 cubic foot less than you get on the 4-door M3, and there's tons of practicality back here. We've got some grocery hooks for our grocery bags, and if I pull both of these tabs, you can actually drop down the rear seats and have a huge amount of space back here, or you can just drop down that middle part as a pass-through and put like a set of skis or something like that. So BMW has not skimped on practicality just because you get a 2-door. I like that. All right, so now it's time for the most important bit of the review, getting the new M4 out on the road. And I want to talk about a few things that I wanted BMW to fix when coming from the old F82 generation M4. I thought the steering needed improvement. I thought the engine, the old S55 engine, didn't sound that good. And I thought that the original cars, when they first came out, couldn't really put the power down all that well. They were a little bit too crazy for me, and I wanted them to be a little more comfortable. So let's talk about whether or not this new M4 handles the engine part. Engine part, taken care of completely. We've got a 3-liter twin turbocharged inline 6. Now it is an evolution of that S55 engine that you used to get in the M4. It's now called the S58. And we've got the regular M4, so 473 horsepower, which is plenty, 406 pound-feet of torque. That is 48 horsepower and 58 pound-feet more than you got from the old M4. Now 0 to 60 in this manual model is going to take 4.1 seconds. Your top speed is 155 unless you go for the M driver's pack. That's going to raise your top speed to 180 miles an hour. Now you can also get the M4 competition. That's going to up you to 503 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. Your 0 to 60 is going to drop tremendously because of that automatic transmission, not just because of the extra power. You're going to go from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. So you're going to shave 0.3 off of your 0 to 60 time there. So if you're really all about just having the quickest M4, you're probably going to want to get the automatic competition car. I think that you're fine with this base power level. It feels absolutely quick enough, and I am loving the engagement of having this manual. Now later this year, the cars have not arrived yet, but later in the summer, BMW is going to offer that M4 competition with an all-wheel drive variant. So that's their M xDrive system, similar to the one that you get in the big cars like the BMW M5. And the cool thing about that is it may be an all-wheel drive system, but you can completely deactivate it and go full rear-wheel drive. Now we don't have a 0 to 60 time on that model yet, but it's gonna be quicker than the rear-wheel drive model, BMW has told me. So you might be looking at 3.7, 3.6 seconds with all-wheel drive. And BMW thinks over 60% of M3 and M4 owners are gonna opt for all-wheel drive. It's just gonna be better in all weather. You can drive this car in the winter. It's gonna be quicker off the line. It's gonna be amazing at drag racing, and you get the rear-wheel drive mode, so you can still get the burnouts and all of that stuff. And the competition does raise the red line just a little bit. You get a 7,200 RPM red line, and that is an 8-speed automatic, not a dual clutch anymore like you used to get on the M4. You've got 3 manual modes and 3 automatic modes. I've heard that gearbox is great, the ZF 8-speed, it's fantastic, but it maybe lacks a bit of that special nature that you used to get from the dual clutch cars. So now I'm done talking about the engine. Let's see how all of this plays out. I'm gonna push the M2 button. I already showed you how you set all of that stuff up. I have M2 set to be the most aggressive. I have my M1 sort of pretty aggressive, but like comfort on the suspension and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and give it some gas here. Let's see how it grips. Not a great 1-2 shift from me. There we go. Oh, this car builds speed incredibly well. I will say about the manual transmission, this is very much like any BMW manual you've driven. It has sort of those notchy, semi-rubbery shifts. I happen to like BMW's transmission. The one thing I've never liked about it is that reverse is kind of far over from first. So as you saw, if you're not quite used to this car, I've only driven it for about a day and a half so far, you will sometimes accidentally kind of hit that reverse part of the gate and you won't have quite a smooth shift. I promise I will get that better later in this review though. The acceleration is fantastic. We've got those PS 4S tires, size 285 in the back, and they do a fantastic job of helping to get all 473 horsepower down to the ground. We're gonna do one more hard launch here on this video. I promise you I'll get it right this time. Ready? We're gonna bring it around. First gear, dump the clutch, ready? There we go, we got some wheel spin. As soon as you get it into second, wheel spin stops, power out of the hole. I think with the manual transmission, you are gonna be just fast enough. You're gonna get really good with this. It's a good, nice, acceptable manual transmission. We have some really nice features here. This is 50 pounds lighter than the automatic, so that's nice. And we have BMW's gear shift assistant. So watch this, I'm gonna downshift. I did not blip the throttle there. That was all the car. Sounds really good, right? I really love rev matching this car myself, but the gear shift assistant is fantastic if you're driving on a track and you're just not quite that good at heel towing yet, this gear shift assistant is absolutely fantastic. And we got to talk about the steering. This was a big issue on the previous generation M4. It was very dead, very disconnected, not nearly as good as the previous generation, the V8 M3, the E90 and E92. Now, this is not the best steering you're going to get on the market. I still think that the Alfa Romeo Giulia has this car beat in terms of outright steering feel, and I think that when Cadillac's Blackwing cars come out, I think those will probably have this beat as well. However, I want to give BMW some credit here. I really do like this steering. It's got two settings. You've got the comfort and sport mode. In comfort mode, it's very light and very easy. It's a little bit numb in comfort mode, but I have it in sport mode right now, and I think the weighting of it is just about perfect. I've complained for a while now that BMW's steering is just way too heavy, especially here on the M models, but I think they've got it just about right here. There's a nice weight to it. It's not quite communicative, but it is extremely direct, and I can really place the car extremely well. The chassis is just so much more sorted than I remember the F80 cars being. We've got standard adaptive M suspension that is not too stiff when you're in normal mode. It's a little firm when you put it in its sportiest setting, but it is not too bad whatsoever. I could easily daily drive this car if not for the seats. The seats are just a little bit crazy for me. And we've got some silly features as well. We've got the xDrive Professional option with dynamic stability control. So that gives you 10 stages of wheel slip that the car will allow you. It's very similar to what you get on the McLaren 720S, where it'll allow you to either drift a lot or just drift a little before it catches you. And I would love to tell you how that works, but I am just too big of a coward to try that out here on the public road. I just don't want to get a ticket or wreck this car, but you can go ahead and try it. There's even a cool feature I showed you, the M Drift Analyzer, where it'll give you a score out of 5 on how good your drift was. Again, I'm just not gutsy enough to try it, but I think that BMW has done everything they need to do to fix this car. The biggest issue for me was the sound of that S55 motor. It sounded like a vacuum cleaner, but listen to this. At the top of the RPM range, I think that has that raspy inline 6 noise that you used to get from the E46 M3. I think it's back. Listen to this. It makes the pops on the overrun. It handles well. Oh, that is the sound that I think an M3 or M4 in this case needs to make. And I think BMW has done the right job. They've corrected all of the wrongs of the previous generation. I really love this new M4. So that was the 2021 BMW M4. I think we've grilled this car properly. $72,000 is going to be your starting price for the rear-wheel drive manual model with 473 horsepower like we have here. If you want the competition model, that's going to be about $75,000. Gets you that automatic transmission, and later on, although we don't have pricing, you can get all-wheel drive. Now, all-wheel drive is the way most people are probably going to order their M3 and M4. I personally would go for the stick shift. This is one of the last vehicles in this segment to offer it. We don't know how much longer automakers are going to be offering manuals, so I implore you to try this out. I don't think that the lack of power is going to be a big difference here. I personally would go for the M3, the 4-door model. It's a little bit cheaper than the M4 and gets you a little bit more practicality. I also just like the way it looks a little bit better. I would go a lot less heavy on the options here. Those carbon ceramic brakes and those seats add up to about $13,000 combined. This is a $93,000 car behind me. I would stay very low with the options, get an M3 with the manual. You're going to be around $75,000, and you're going to enjoy one of the best sports sedans on the market, and pretty much the only one that's available with a manual. We hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2021 BMW M4's grille. I mean the whole car, sorry. For more videos like it, be sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell to be alerted of more videos. We have other videos as well over on TikTok. They're shorter, they're funny. You guys are gonna love them. And check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things, and make sure you have the CarBuzz app downloaded on your phone to keep up with the latest and greatest in automotive news. I'll see you next time.